Good afternoon. My name is Kevin. I live in a small rural town in Alberta, population of 3,200 people. We just moved here a couple years ago, my wife and I, and we just love living in Alberta, especially in the rural area. There's no hustle and bustle, no congestion of the city. Matter of fact, we don't even have any traffic lights in this small town of 3,200 people. But I'm not here to talk about where I live. I'm here to talk about something that so many people face. Matter of fact, psychiatrists and doctors and psychologists are making a fortune off of many people who are dealing with something that we've all dealt with. I've dealt with it. It's fear. But before I continue, I want to let you know I am not giving you any psychological advice or psychiatric advice or any kind of medical advice whatsoever. I'm just going to talk about how I handle fear. And again, fear we've all handled. We've all been confronted with it. Some live in terrible fear. And those people who live in terrible fear and for a long period of time, probably a good idea is to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist for them to help you with your severe fear. But I'm here to talk about those who have fear, but it's not severe, but it's there. We deal with it every day. We deal with it every day. And how do you handle it? I shouldn't say I've always said, but I've said over the years as I got a little older, and I tell you, I'm a little older than probably most of you, or the majority of you watching this. How I've handled fear. And I've always often said, I've said, not often, but I've said, there's two things you could do with fear. One is let it control you. The second is you control it. And now I know it's easier said than done to you control it. It's not easy. What I'm about to say is not easy. I know. But I've dealt with it over the years. And this summer I had extreme time where I was fearful because I had a medical diagnosis and I thought, whoa, it was just it was a shock. It was a shock. And how I dealt with it, me personally, I dealt with it as a Christian spiritually with God's help. But I still had to come to terms with it. So how I handle fear. Fear is, in most cases, in all my life, probably the only time I really had possibility of danger, but I controlled my fear, was when I was in the Army and I used to jump out of airplanes. Yeah, I'm an ex-paratrooper and I used to jump out of airplanes. But I'm not talking those times. But even those times, at first I had to, especially the second time, I had to control my fear. Because the second time, when you're in training, you're in jump school, you know it's coming. So I had to control that, and thankfully I did. But again, I want to talk about pretty well everyday fears. If you're a salesperson, you know what it's like. You got to make that phone call. Oh, it's so hard. All of a sudden, the phone feels like, as you're just going to say, the old days you pick up a receiver. Now you just put it up to your ear, and you have your cell phone. And you know what it is like as a salesperson. You got to make that call. But you don't want to make that call because really you're afraid that someone's going to say no, and you won't know how to handle it. So you put off the fear. You put off making the call. If you put off making the call too long, you can lose your job, especially if you're a salesperson. Other people, just everyday people, you've got to maybe confront someone. confront your spouse, confront one of your colleagues, or maybe even bring up you want to ask for a raise at work, but you're afraid to ask for a raise because of what your boss may say to you. Now, put yourself in any situation where it's not life-threatening, and that's the key, to ask yourself, what are you afraid of when it's not life-threatening? What's the worst that can happen to you? They'll say no, but there's a good possibility they'll also say yes to your request. If you're a salesperson or you're at work and you gotta confront somebody. So I always say, when the fear comes upon me, I've got to ask myself, am I going to let it control me, or am I going to control it? And this is what I need to do to control it. I've got to assess the situation. Is it dangerous? What's the worst that can come out of this? Oh, rejection. That's the big fear, rejection. Oh, it's just rejection. Oh, okay. So no, I'm not going to get hurt. No one's going to throw a pie in my face or hit me over the head with a baseball bat. Okay, so it's just rejection. Because that's what most of the fear is about, is rejection. The person is going to say no. I'm going to hear a no, and I'm going to be deflated. So that comes down to controlling the fear. Assess what's the worst that can happen. Assess it. What's the worst that can happen? And in many cases, it's not life-threatening. So if it's not life-threatening, what are you going to do about it? Overcome it. Work towards achieving whatever you want to achieve. So that's my 2 bits for today when it comes to fear. Are you going to let it control you, or will you control it? And the best way to control it is by asking yourselves, what's the worst thing that can come out of this? What is the worst thing that can come out of it? And that's it. It's just, for me, that's how I've helped myself control the fear I feel at times. What's the worst thing that can come out of it? Nothing. Nothing physical. No, nothing physical. And once I understand that, then I can work towards doing what I need to do, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Now I could say, okay, I can do that. I used to be in sales and used to fear that phone until I realized, hey, no one's going to shoot me. All they're going to say is no. That's it. I assessed the situation, and I picked up the phone, made the calls, and I got more no's than I did yeses. But so what? I was never physically hurt. So that's it. Again, I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just someone who has had to learn how to deal with fear and not let it control me, but me, that I chose to control the fear. It's a wonderful way to go through life. It's a wonderful way. You're able to achieve more. You're able to do more. You're able to go more. You're able to be more involved in whatever you need to be involved in. But don't let it control you if it's not in a dangerous situation. If it's a dangerous situation, a physically dangerous situation, well, then get out of there. Walk away. Walk away. That's all I'm just saying. Just wanted to jump on today. Because last week I spoke on what you resist persists. And I thought about it after, and I thought, yeah, what you resist persists, but one of the reasons people are resisting it is because they're fearful. Unfortunately, when you resist it, or you're fearful, whatever's bothering you will persist and consist. So I hope this is a little helpful for some. If not, turn it off. Don't listen to it. I have no problems with that. I'm secure with myself because I know who I am. And that's it. That's it. Oh, by the way, I'm not, again, a person with medical advice, but I am a life coach. So that's it. Kevin from a small town in Alberta, where all the combines are driving up and down the streets and clearing all the stuff in the fields. Have a wonderful day. Really have a wonderful day.